With two successful offer sheet claims, the St. Louis Blues may have gained a new rival in the Pacific Division, but in the process have acquired two very promising young players. The first of which, who we will talk about today, being Philip Broberg. Before we get into the video, if you like this content, please make sure to give the video a like. It helps us spread to more Blues fans all around the country and the world. And share this video with a friend. So, Philip Broberg is the newest Blue Line addition on the St. Louis Blues. He is a young player, 23 years old, and a young 23. Actually, almost shares my birthday. And he's in the NHL, and here I am making a video about him. But very promising. He's got good size at 6'3", although a little bit underweight at 198 pounds, but definitely uses that sort of slender frame to his advantage in his play style. The Blues signed him for 2 years at $4.58 million. That'll be his cap it for the next 2 years. However, after those 2 years are up, St. Louis still has the RFA rights, as he's still ARB eligible. So they'll still get a chance to re-up and extend him after that, unless another team tries to offer sheet him away. But that's hard to predict, 2 years out. Broberg is a former first-round pick. He was drafted 8th overall in 2019 by the Oilers. Came up through the Oilers organization until, obviously, this offseason. So with his time in especially the NHL last year was his only real significant year, because before that he was mostly only making spot starts and still putting his name on the map as a prospect. Last year, he was still kind of up and down between the NHL and the AHL. Actually only played 12 games in the NHL for the Oilers, and had 2 points to show for it. So it's not much to make of in the NHL. Most of his time he spent with their AHL affiliate, the Bakersfield Condors, where he had 38 points in 49 games, and that's a much higher mark. Now, to be fair, it is against lower competition, but still showing a lot of that good offensive toolkit. He had 5 goals and 33 assists, so a really creative playmaker. The only other thing of note is his time in the playoffs, especially with the Oilers. So last year in the playoffs, they had him making 10 starts, and he tallied 3 points off of 2 goals and an assist. Not much is to say on the stat sheet. However, a lot of people were really impressed with his level of play, especially against the best competition the NHL has to offer, the Stanley Cup playoffs. And he's shown a lot of promise as a young, developing defenseman. So Broberg came up as, when he was drafted, he was touted as a potential first-round pick. People did think that maybe the Oilers overdrafted him, but still was at first-round talent most likely, and should have had a good two-way game. Throughout his time in minor league affiliates and whatnot, I would say he's shown some of that two-way promise, but mostly it's been showing off his creative offensive toolkit. So whether he'll stick as more of an offensive defenseman or a two-way defenseman remains to be seen. As I said, he's still a young 23, so he's kind of just starting to hit that aging curve. And really next year too, where you can start to see him really solidify his NHL game. And this will be his first chance to do it. He's expected to play on the second line with Falk. And that'll be significant NHL minutes for, especially ideally, he'll be playing at least half the season, if not the full season. And that'll be a lot more than he's ever had in his career in the NHL. So we'll see how he holds up against it. There's a lot of promise there. As we said, there's a lot of offensive creativity, and that's kind of the biggest thing about Broberg's game. As I said, he's kind of a tall frame, but not necessarily as filled out. But I would still say a big puck-moving defenseman. And he really likes to help create rush chances and play effectively in transition. So making smart passes to get out of his defensive end and create an offensive rush, or moving with that rush team to kind of be the follower there. That is really significant, because that really brings a level that the Blues kind of don't have. I mean, you could say guys like Nick Leddy like to join the rush when it happens, and Colton Parayko or Torrey Krug, if he was playing, did like to try and create those rush chances, but their effectiveness was, mixed at best. Broberg actually has, I think, the toolkit and especially the skating ability to do that. And his skating ability was the other part of his toolkit that really got him drafted as highly as he was. He's such a smooth skater, up and down the ice, going both ways, really, and uses almost weaponizes that skating as part of his offensive toolkit. Tries to use it to, be a creative playmaker, maybe deking one way before that opens up a passing lane across the ice the other way, or perhaps just skating around someone in the neutral zone, or even just getting out of the defensive zone to open up a much easier pass. Um, Again, that remains to be seen how well it transitions, and if he can stick as a two-way guy, or if he is just going to be more of an offensive defenseman. But the big thing here is, even at his young age, he never looked terrible defensively. Like, he never really looked bad. He always had nice plays here and there, and it's just a matter of consistency, I think. But you could say that about pretty much all young players in the NHL. And yeah, as I said before, he is a formerly, highly drafted first round pick who just started to come on last year and is hitting just the right point in his aging curve to where he could really, make some noise and develop. I mean, this is that's about as exciting as a review as you can get for a young player that you're hoping to develop. Um, but it remains to be seen with Broberg as to how well his offensive toolkit can and defense can translate to the NHL and the Blues. I think the other thing to consider is who he's going to be playing with. Justin Falk, who almost plays a little bit of a similar play style to him, although a little bit more offensive. Really, his defense is somewhat hit or miss. But Falk is more solid in the defensive zone than in the other two. And Broberg does play mostly responsibly in the defensive zone. Like, when he's getting beat, it's usually not in his own end. It'll be on the other end of the ice, which is what you would prefer. And he has the skating ability to back that up. So yeah, playing with Falk, I think, will help him out. I think he could learn some, offensive ideas from Falk. Maybe they could bounce that off each other. And honestly, as a pairing with kind of complementary skills, like, there's hope there for this to be at least an average, if not an above average defensive pairing. And who knows, could Broberg end up playing on the first line with Parayko? I could see that for sure. I would be a little surprised in year one, but in year two going forward, I could definitely see that. And as I said, those RFA rights are still the Blues, so they will get the first crack at re-signing him for what he's worth. And speaking of signing him, the only other thing about this whole acquisition is that it is a little bit of an overpay, especially for what he's shown. But the Blues aren't really paying for what he's shown; they're paying for his potential, which is pretty solid. And especially, they really needed a young defenseman, and there aren't a lot of better guys to go after than Broberg. So it's a really high upside move that I think we can all be excited for. But let us know what you think down in the comments. We do read all of your comments and would love to get in discussions with you guys on here or on our Twitter X page at Note News Pod, everywhere you get your socials. And like and subscribe, like this video and give us a subscribe if you don't mind. Give us a 5-star rating if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And then expect our next breakdown of Dylan Holloway will be coming tomorrow. So keep your eyes out for that. But until then, and as always, let's go Blues.